The War Council chamber of the Valoran Empire stretched across 300 meters of polished black stone. Holographic displays floated in the air like frozen stars, each one showing a different conquered world. Grand Admiral Thexar stood at the center, his forearms folded behind his broad back as he studied the latest addition to their database. Earth. That was what the inhabitants called it. A primitive world. Intelligence Officer Krenva announced to the assembled commanders. Her voice echoed through the vast chamber. They have barely left their own planet. Chemical rockets, nuclear fishing, radio waves. They are at least 500 years behind our technology. Thier moved closer to the holographic display. The blue and green planet rotated slowly before him. White clouds swirled across its surface. It looked peaceful, beautiful even. He had seen 1,000 such worlds. All of them now flew the banner of the Valoran Empire. Population? He asked. 8 billion, Admiral. Divided into nearly 200 separate nations. They fight among themselves constantly. Wars over resources, territory beliefs. They have not achieved even basic planetary unity. A laugh rippled through the council chamber. Commander Zathor, who had conquered 40 worlds himself, shook his head. They still have nations, separate governments. How does such a species survive? They barely do. Kren replied. Our analysis shows they have come close to self-destruction at least 6 times in the last century. They possess weapons that could destroy their own world, yet they point these weapons at each other. Thier had heard enough. For 3,000 years, the Valoran Empire had expanded across the galaxy. They had encountered hundreds of species. Some had surrendered immediately. Others had fought. None had won. The Valorans were the apex predators of this region of space. And they knew it. How many ships do we need? He asked. Sir, our standard protocol suggests 50 vessels for a world of this size and development level. Send 500, Dexnar said. The chamber fell silent. 00 ships was a full conquest fleet. It was what they sent to fight pure civilizations, not primitive worlds that had barely discovered spaceflight. Admiral, with respect that seems excessive, Krenva ventured. Vexenar's eyes, all 6 of them fixed on her. Let it be excessive. Let this world called Earth see what the Valorian Empire brings to those who might resist. We will show them overwhelming force. They will surrender before a single shot is fired. This will be quick. As you command, Admiral. The orders went out within the hour. The 7th Conquest Fleet, 500 warships strong, prepared to leave Valoran space. Each ship carried weapons capable of cracking a planet's crust. Each ship was crewed by warriors who had never known defeat. 3 weeks later, the fleet arrived at the edge of the Sol system. That was what the humans called their sun. Thexar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, and watched the star grow larger on the view screen. Begin system scan, he ordered. The results came back quickly. 9 planets, several dozen moons, and countless asteroids. The 3rd planet from the sun was their target, Earth. Detecting artificial satellites in orbit around the target world, the sensor officer reported. Primitive construction, chemical propulsion, no energy shields, no plasma weapons, Admiral. They have nothing that could threaten even our smallest scout ship. Any defensive installations? A few orbital platforms mounting what appear to be kinetic weapons. Crude nuclear warheads. We could destroy them all in minutes. Dexar allowed himself a small smile. This would indeed be quick. Open a communications channel. All frequencies. I want every human on that planet to hear this message. The communications officer worked for a moment, then nodded. Channel open, Admiral. Thexanar stepped forward. He had delivered this speech 47 times before. Each time the result was the same. Fear, despair, surrender. People of Earth, he began. I am Grand Admiral Thexar of the Valoran Empire. Your world has been selected for incorporation into our domain. You have 48 hours to surrender unconditionally. All military forces will stand down. All governmental structures will transfer authority to Valoran administration. Resistance will be met with the complete destruction of your civilization. You have 48 hours. Choose wisely. He cut the transmission. Move the fleet to Mars orbit. We wait there for their response. Far below on Earth, chaos erupted. The transmission had reached every television, every radio, every computer screen on the planet. In New York, People ran through the streets. In Beijing, emergency sirens wailed. In Moscow, military commanders received urgent orders. In Brussels, the European Union called an emergency session. The United Nations building in New York filled within hours. Representatives from every nation pushed into the Security Council chamber. Old enemies sat side by side. The American president spoke to the Russian premier on a secure line for the first time in 5 years. The Chinese chairman contacted the Indian prime minister directly. For the first time in human history, every border, every conflict, every disagreement became instantly meaningless. There was only one question that mattered now. How do we survive? We have 48 hours, the UN Secretary General said to the assembled leaders on video conference. His face was pale. We need options. We have no options, the British Prime Minister said flatly. Our militaries are designed to fight each other, not alien invaders. We have nuclear weapons, but they told us resistance means complete destruction. If we fight, they will kill everyone, so we surrender. The Brazilian president asked, "We give up our entire world without firing a single shot. What choice do we have?" Someone else said, "But in a bunker deep beneath the Pentagon, a different conversation was taking place." General Sarah Morrison stared at the data on her screen. The alien fleet, 500 ships, each one larger than an aircraft carrier, weapons that could burn continents. "Tell me about Project Damocles," she said to the scientists and military officers gathered around the table. Dr. James Chen, head of the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, pulled up a series of files. Project Damocles has been running since 1962. After we got close to nuclear war, some people asked a simple question: what if the threat came from outside Earth? We have been preparing for this scenario for 63 years. What do we have? Railguns hidden in civilian infrastructure, antimatter warheads in deep space storage, kinetic kill satellites disguised as weather monitors, mass drivers on the far side of the moon, neural network hacking tools designed to infiltrate non-human computer systems. And that is just what was approved for production. We have another dozen experimental weapons that have never been tested. Morrison looked at the faces around the table. If we use these weapons, they will retaliate. Millions will die, maybe billions. If we surrender, we become slaves, Chen said quietly. Maybe forever. At least if we fight as free people. Do we even have a chance? Unknown. But Admiral, they are arrogant. They sent 500 ships because they want to scare us. That means they have never faced real resistance. Arrogance is a weakness we can exploit. Morrison made her decision. Get me the president and activate all Damocles' assets. If they want Earth, they will have to pay for it in blood. The President of the United States addressed the world from the Oval Office. His speech was broadcast on every channel, translated into every language. My fellow humans, he began, we face an impossible choice. Surrender or fight. But I refuse to believe those are our only options. We have been preparing for this day for longer than most of you know. We have weapons. We have plans. We have the will to survive. I am not ordering anyone to fight, but I am telling you that Earth will not surrender. Not in 48 hours. Not ever. If they want our world, they will have to take it from us. And we will make them regret ever coming to our solar system. Around the world, people watched. Some cried, some prayed, some loaded their weapons. Military bases went to full alert. Civilian volunteers flooded recruitment centers. Scientists worked around the clock to prepare weapons that had only existed in theory. On the Eternal Dominion, Thexar received the human response with surprise. They are refusing to surrender, he asked. Yes, Admiral. The message was clear. They intend to fight. For a moment, Thexar said nothing. In 3,000 years, the Valorian Empire had encountered resistance before, but never from a species this primitive. It was like an insect refusing to move before a boot. Very well, he said finally. When the 48 hours expire, we will demonstrate what resistance costs. Target their major cities. Prepare orbital bombardment. We will burn 10% of their population as a lesson. Then we will ask again if they wish to surrender. Yes, Admiral. But something nagged at Thexar. Something about the human message bothered him. They had sounded too confident, too certain. Could they possibly have something hidden? Some weapon they had not detected? Run another scan, he ordered. Deep scan. Check for any hidden installations, anything we might have missed. The sensor officer worked for several minutes. Admiral, I am detecting some anomalies. Energy signatures that do not match their known technology, but they are faint. Could be sensor errors. Where? The moon. Several large asteroids. And there are objects in high orbit that our initial scans classified as debris, but some of them are too regular, too symmetrical. Felt the first stirring of doubt. Could they be weapons? Unknown, Admiral. If they are unlike anything in our database. Maintain alert status. Keep the fleet spread out. If they are stupid enough to attack, I want us ready to respond. The 48 hours ticked down. On Earth, people waited. They said goodbye to loved ones. They held their children. They looked up at the stars and wondered if this was humanity's last night. In hidden bunkers and secret bases, soldiers prepared. Weapon systems came online, targeting computers locked onto the alien fleet. Fingers hovered over firing buttons. The last seconds counted down. Dexonar stood on his bridge, waiting for the humans to accept reality. Then a voice came over the communication channel. It was the same human president. "We surrender," he said. His voice was broken, defeated. "We cannot fight you. Please give us 12 more hours to organize the surrender, to tell our people, to prepare. Just 12 more hours." Thexar smiled. There it was. Reality had finally set in. "You have 12 hours, he said. "No more. Use them wisely." He cut the transmission and turned to his officers. "See? They always break. Fear is the greatest weapon." But on Earth, in a secret command center, General Morrison cut the transmission and turned to her team. "That gives us 12 more hours to prepare. Use every second. When they come into attack position, we will be ready." "Do you think we can win?" someone asked. Morrison looked at the holographic display showing the alien fleet. 500 ships against one planet. "It should be impossible. I do not know if we can win," she said. "But I know we're going to make them wish they never found us." The 12 hours passed like a dream. On Earth, millions of people evacuated from the cities. Families drove into the countryside, carrying whatever they could fit in their cars. But most people stayed. There was nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. If the aliens decided to destroy Earth, no distance would save anyone. General Morrison stood in the command center deep beneath Colorado. Around her, hundreds of officers monitored screens showing data from across the solar system. The alien fleet had moved closer. They were now in high Earth orbit, exactly where Morrison wanted them. "Status of all Damocles weapons?" she asked. "All systems are green, General. Lunar mass drivers are charged and ready. Kinetic satellites have acquired targets. Anti-Adder warheads are armed. Underground railguns are in position. We are ready." Morrison took a deep breath. In a few minutes, she would give an order that would either save humanity or doom it. There was no middle ground. Either the Damocles weapons would work or Earth would burn. Communications. "Are we still broadcasting the surrender signal?" "Yes, General. We are sending continuous messages about organizing the transition of power. They are eating it up. Their formation has tightened. They think we are helpless." That was exactly what Morrison wanted. For 60 years, Project Damocles had prepared for this moment. The Soviet Union had started their own version during the Cold War. China had followed. Eventually, the major powers had begun to share information. What was the point of keeping secrets if aliens destroyed everyone? The projects had been hidden in plain sight. Weather satellites that were actually kinetic weapons. Mining operations on the moon that were actually mass driver installations. Scientific research stations that were actually weapons labs. Civilian space companies that were actually military contractors. And the most important part of Damocles, assume the enemy would be technologically superior. Do not try to match their weapons. Instead, create weapons that were too simple, too primitive, too insane for an advanced civilization to expect. "How much longer?" Morrison asked. 30 seconds, General. The alien flagship is moving into optimal position." Morrison looked at the main screen. The alien ships formed a beautiful formation in the night sky. Hundreds of vessels, each one glowing with power. They looked like stars, like gods. They had no idea what was about to happen. All stations prepared to fire on my mark. Morrison said into the communication system. Around the world, across the moon, throughout the asteroid belt, human weapons came online. 3, 2, 1 mark. The sky above Earth erupted in fire. The kinetic satellites went first. These were not complex weapons. They were simple chunks of tungsten, each one weighing several tons. They had been in orbit for 40 years, disguised as old satellite debris. Now they activated their small maneuvering thrusters and accelerated toward the alien fleet. Aboard the Eternal Dominion, alarms suddenly screamed to life. "Contact!" the sensor officer shouted. Multiple objects accelerating toward the fleet. Speed increasing rapidly. "From where?" Thexar demanded. "Everywhere, Admiral. From the planet, from the moon, from the asteroid field. Hundreds of objects. Missiles? No, sir. No propulsion signatures. They are just rocks, pieces of metal moving at extreme velocity." Thexar felt confusion wash over him. Rocks. The humans were throwing rocks. Destroy them. They cannot possibly penetrate our shields. The Valoran ships opened fire with their point defense weapons. Lasers and plasma beams lit up space, destroying dozens of the incoming projectiles. But there were too many, and they were moving too fast. The first kinetic penetrator hit a Valoran cruiser at 40,000 kilometers per hour. The tungsten rod, moving at such incredible speed, struck the ship's energy shield. For a fraction of a second, the shield held. Then the kinetic energy overwhelmed it. The rod punched through the shield, through the armor, through the entire ship from bow to stern. The cruiser exploded in a ball of fire. "What was that?" Thexar roared. "What just happened?" "The projectile penetrated the shield, Admiral. The kinetic energy was too much. It just punched straight through." More impacts followed. The simple tungsten rods, propelled by nothing more than gravity and momentum, tore through Valoran shields, as if they were not there. Advanced energy fields designed to stop plasma weapons and laser beams could not handle the raw physical force of solid metal, moving at relativistic speeds. Evasive maneuvers, ordered. Scatter the fleet. But the Valorans had grouped their ships close together, expecting no resistance. Now they paid the price for their arrogance. Ships collided as they tried to maneuver. More kinetic penetrators slammed home. Explosions blossomed across the formation. Casualty report. 47 ships destroyed or disabled. Admiral. Damage reports coming in from 100 more. 47 ships in less than 2 minutes. Dexar could not believe it. These primitives with their simple metal rods had just done more damage than the last 3 species the Valorans had conquered combined. Return fire. Target the planet. I want those launch sites destroyed immediately. The Valoran fleet opened fire on Earth. Plasma beams lanced down from orbit, targeting the sources of the kinetic attacks. They hit empty fields, abandoned buildings, decoy sites, because the kinetic satellites had been drifting in orbit for decades. They had no engines, no power signatures, nothing that would identify them as weapons until they activated. And now they were gone, either destroyed by their own impacts or drifting as dead debris. Once more, Admiral, we have a bigger problem, the sensor officer said. Energy spike from the lunar surface. Large energy spike. On the far side of Earth's moon, a facility that looked like a mining operation suddenly opened to the sky. Massive electromagnetic rails, each one 3 kilometers long, pointed toward the Valoran fleet. They had been built over 30 years, disguised as mining equipment and covered with lunar regolith. The mass drivers opened fire. The projectiles were not sophisticated. They were just rocks. Moon rocks launched at tremendous speeds by electromagnetic acceleration. Each one weighed several tons. Each one had been mined from the lunar surface, shaped into a rough cylinder, and loaded into the mass driver system. They crossed the distance to the Valoran fleet in seconds. Incoming fire from the moon, someone shouted. The rocks hit like the hammer of God. Unlike the kinetic satellites, which had been relatively small, these projectiles were massive. When they hit Valoran ships, they did not just penetrate. They shattered the vessels entirely. Metal twisted, hulls crumpled. Entire ships broke apart under the impact. Get us out of orbit, ordered. Emergency jump now. Sir, we cannot jump from this close to the planet. The gravity well will tear us apart. Then move. Get away from the planet. Get away from the moon. Get away from whatever else these primitives have waiting for us. The Valoran fleet began to pull back, abandoning their attack positions. But humanity was not done. In the asteroid belt, mining stations that had been operating for 20 years suddenly revealed their true purpose. These were not civilian operations. They were military bases disguised as commercial enterprises, and each one was armed with weapons that the Valorans could not even imagine. Nuclear-pebbed X-ray lasers. The concept was insane. Take a nuclear warhead, surround it with specially designed rods, detonate the warhead. In the microseconds before the rods vaporized, they would channel the nuclear explosion into focused beams of X-rays, each beam powerful enough to slice through a ship. One nuclear warhead could create dozens of laser beams. The warheads were one-use weapons. They destroyed themselves in the act of firing, but they were incredibly effective. The asteroid bases launched their warheads toward the retreating Valoran fleet. The warheads coasted for several minutes, looking like harmless debris. Then, at optimal range, they detonated. Dozens of invisible X-ray beams lanced across space. The Valorans, focused on the visible threats, never saw them coming. The beams struck ships all across the fleet. They burned through armor. They boiled metal. They killed crew members instantly. "What is hitting us?" Thexnar demanded. "Where are these weapons coming from?" "Unknown, Admiral. No visible projectiles. No laser signatures. Ships are just exploding." "That is impossible." But it was happening. The Valoran fleet, which had entered the Sol system with 500 ships, was being torn apart by weapons they could not understand. Weapons that were too simple, too crude, too impossible for their advanced sensors to predict. On Earth, Morrison watched the battle unfold. The data stream showed Valoran ships exploding, retreating, burning. It was working. Incredibly, impossibly, it was working. Casualty count on their fleet. Best estimate, General. They have lost or damaged over 200 ships. The fleet is in full retreat toward Mars. 200 ships. Morrison felt a surge of hope. But she knew this was not over. The aliens would regroup. They would adapt, and they would return angrier than before. "Launch the drone fighters," she ordered all of them. In orbit around Earth, in hidden bays on the moon, on stations throughout the inner solar system. The drone fighters activated. These were not large ships. Each one was about the size of a car. They carried simple rocket engines, basic guidance systems, and one weapon, a small nuclear warhead. There were 10,000 of them. The drones swarmed toward the Valoran fleet like angry hornets. They moved in erratic patterns, making them difficult to target. The Valorans tried to shoot them down, but for every drone destroyed, 3 more got through. The drones slammed into Valoran ships and detonated. Nuclear fire bloomed across space. Individually, the drones were not very powerful, but in such numbers, they were devastating. They overwhelmed point defenses. They attacked from every angle. They gave the Valorans no rest. "This is impossible," Thexar roared. "These are primitives. They should not have weapons like this." "Admiral, we need to withdraw," Commander Zathor said. "We have lost nearly half the fleet. We need to regroup. Bring in reinforcements." Thexar wanted to refuse, wanted to order the fleet to turn and burn the human world to ash. But he could not. His proud fleet was being destroyed by primitives with simple weapons. Weapons that made no sense. Weapons that worked. "Withdraw to Mars orbit," he said finally. The words tasted like poison. "We will regroup there and plan our next attack." The surviving Valoran ships pulled back, leaving behind the wreckage of their destroyed vessels. The space around Earth was filled with debris, twisted metal, bodies, the detritus of battle. On Earth, people watched the alien fleet retreat. For a moment, there was silence. Then, someone cheered. Then, someone else. Within minutes, cities around the world erupted in celebration. They had done it. They had fought an alien armada and won. But in the command center, Morrison did not celebrate. She looked at the casualty reports from Earth. The aliens had managed to land some hits during the battle. Plasma beams had struck New York, Mumbai, Tokyo. Cities burned. Millions were dead. The price of victory was written in blood and fire. "General, should we pursue?" someone asked. Morrison shook her head. No. We hurt them, but they still have over 200 ships. They will be ready for our tricks now. We need to prepare for their counterattack. Do you think they will counterattack? I know they will, Morrison said quietly. We just embarrassed them in front of the galaxy. They will come back. And next time they will not underestimate us. Next time they will come with everything they have. On the Eternal Dominion, Thexar stared at the tactical display. 237 ships. That was all that remained of his fleet. In a few hours, the humans had destroyed or disabled 263 Valoran vessels. How did they do this? He asked quietly. No one answered. No one knew. The humans should not have had these weapons. Should not have been able to fight back. Should have surrendered like every other primitive species. Admiral, incoming transmission from Valoran High Command, the communications officer said. Thexar closed all 6 of his eyes. This would not be pleasant. Put it through. The holographic image of High Admiral Vorneath appeared. He looked furious. Explain yourself, Thexar. Explain how you managed to lose more than half of a conquest fleet to a primitive world. The humans were prepared, High Admiral. They had weapons hidden throughout their system. Weapons we could not detect. Weapons that primitives should not possess. Yes, High Admiral. This is unacceptable. The Valorian Empire does not lose to primitives. You will return to Earth. You will destroy every human on that planet. I am sending reinforcements. The 3rd and 9th battle groups will arrive in 5 days. Together, you will have 700 ships. Use them. Kill every human. Burn their world. Make an example that the galaxy will never forget. The transmission ended. Thexar stood in silence, staring at Earth on the view screen. The blue planet that had humiliated the Valoran Empire. Prepare for the second assault, he said finally. This time we show no mercy. This time we kill them all. 5 days passed in fear and preparation. Earth's celebration after the first battle had been brief. Now everyone understood the terrible truth. The aliens would return, and they would be angry. The casualty reports from the first battle kept coming in. New York had lost 3 million people to a single plasma strike. Mumbai was burning. Tokyo had entire districts reduced to ash. The death toll climbed toward 300 million. The price for humanity's defiance was written in the bodies of the dead. But Earth did not stop fighting. Could not stop fighting. There was no surrender. Now the Valorians would accept nothing less than complete destruction of humanity. That much was clear from the intercepted communications. General Morrison had not slept in 5 days. She stood in the command center watching the construction crews work on emergency repairs to the defense network. Many of the kinetic satellites were gone. The lunar mass drivers needed recharging. The nuclear-pumped laser stations were depleted. How long until we are combat ready? She asked Dr. Chen. The mass drivers need another 3 days to build up sufficient charge, Chen said, looking exhausted. The kinetic satellites we lost cannot be replaced quickly. We have maybe 200 left. The drone fighters are at 30% capacity. We lost most of them in the first battle. What about the experimental weapons? Chen hesitated. General, some of those weapons are theoretical. We have never tested them. We are fighting for survival, Doctor. Theory is all we have. Tell me what we have. Project Nightfall. Antimatter warheads stored in deep space. We have 12 of them. Each one has enough explosive yield to destroy a small moon. Why have we not used them? Because they are incredibly dangerous. One mistake and we could destroy Earth ourselves. The containment systems are fragile. If one fails during launch, the explosion could crack the planet's crust. Morrison looked at the display showing the Valoran fleet. They had regrouped at Mars, and they were waiting for reinforcements. Intelligence suggested the aliens were bringing in 700 ships for the second assault. 700 against a depleted Earth. Prepare the antimatter warheads, Morrison said. If we are going to die, we will take them with us. On Mars, in orbit around the Red Planet, Grand Admiral Thexar watched his fleet prepare. The reinforcements had arrived. The 3rd and 9th battle groups brought 500 fresh ships, all of them eager to avenge the humiliation of the first battle. Status of the Earth defenses? Thexar asked. Our reconnaissance drones indicate they are rebuilding, Admiral, but they have lost significant capability. Many of their weapon platforms were destroyed or depleted in the first engagement. And their hidden weapons. We have mapped most of them now, Admiral. The lunar installations, The asteroid stations, the orbital satellites. We will know where to strike first. Dexar nodded slowly. The humans had caught them by surprise once. That would not happen again. This time, the Valorian fleet would strike fast and hard. They would destroy every human weapon in placement before assaulting the planet itself. When do we attack? High Admiral Vorneith orders us to wait one more day. He wants to be certain we are at full strength one more day. Thexar could wait. The humans had nowhere to run. Their planet was surrounded. Their system was blockaded. Every hour that passed weakened them further. Time was on the Valoran side now, but the Texar did not know about the signal Earth had sent 5 days ago. A tight beam transmission aimed at the coordinates of Valoran High Command. A message that contained all the battle data from the first engagement. Every weapon used, every tactic employed, every weakness discovered. And attached to that data was a simple message. This is what we did to 500 of your ships. Imagine what we will do to 700. Leave our system now, or we will destroy you all. The message was not a plea for mercy. It was a threat, a promise, and it was currently traveling at the speed of light toward the heart of the Valoran Empire. On Earth, Morrison received a report that made her stomach turn. General, our satellites have detected the Valoran fleet preparing to move. They are breaking orbit from Mars. How long until they reach Earth? Estimated 6 hours. 6 hours. Morrison looked around the command center at the tired faces of her staff. 6 hours until they would fight again. 6 hours until they would discover if humanity could survive a second battle. Deploy all remaining defenses, she ordered. Power up the antimatter warheads. Prepare the mass drivers. Get every drone fighter we have left into position. And initiate Protocol Lazarus. Protocol Lazarus. The last resort plan. The thing that no one wanted to talk about. If Earth was about to fall, Protocol Lazarus would ensure that something of humanity survived. In secret facilities around the world, data began uploading to small spacecraft. Everything humanity had ever learned, every book ever written, every song ever composed, every scientific discovery, all of it compressed and stored on ships that would launch into deep space if Earth fell. Maybe someday someone would find them. Maybe humanity's legacy would survive, even if humanity did not. The Valoran fleet approached Earth in a tight formation. This time, they did not spread out. They kept their ships close, overlapping their shield harmonics to create a nearly impenetrable defensive wall they had learned from the first battle. Enemy fleet, entering high orbit, the sensor officer announced in the command center. Distance, 400,000 kilometers, and closing. Morrison watched the tactical display. 700 red dots moving toward the single blue dot that represented Earth. Impossible odds. Suicide odds. All defense platforms. You are authorized to fire at will, she said into the communication system. Give them hell. The lunar mass drivers fired first. Massive rocks accelerated to tremendous speeds, aimed at the approaching fleet. The Valorans were ready this time. Their point defense systems tracked the projectiles and destroyed most of them. The few that got through hit the overlapping shields and were deflected harmlessly into space. The kinetic satellites launched their tungsten rods again, and the Valorans were prepared. Their shields held. Only a handful of hits got through, causing minimal damage. They adapted, Chen said quietly. They are ready for our weapons now. Morrison felt the cold weight of inevitability settling on her shoulders. The tricks that had worked in the first battle would not work again. The aliens had learned, and now Earth was facing an enemy that was both technologically superior and tactically prepared. Launch the antimatter warheads. She said, all of them maximum dispersion pattern in deep space, hidden among the asteroids and debris. The 12 antimatter warheads activated. These were humanity's most powerful weapons. Each one contained just a few grams of antimatter held in magnetic containment fields. When that antimatter touched normal matter, the result was annihilation. Pure energy release, on a scale that made nuclear weapons look like firecrackers. The warheads accelerated toward the Valoran fleet on simple rocket engines. They looked like normal missiles. The Valorans targeted them with their point defense systems. Lasers and plasma beams lanced out. One warhead was destroyed, then another, but the remaining 10 kept coming. Incoming missiles, the Valoran sensor officer reported. Standard configuration, no unusual readings. Destroy them. Thexar ordered. But these missiles were different. As the Valoran weapons fire converged on them, the warheads activated a special coating on their hulls, a coating that absorbed energy and converted it to a reflective shield. The more the Valorans fired at them, the harder they became to hit. 3 more warheads were destroyed, but 7 reached the Valoran fleet. The containment fields failed simultaneously. 7 grams of antimatter met 7 grams of normal matter. The resulting explosion was brighter than a dozen suns. Space itself seemed to tear apart. The energy release was so massive, so violent, that it created a temporary distortion in local space-time. Valoran ships caught in the blast simply ceased to exist, vaporized in an instant. Others were torn apart by the shockwave. Shields failed. Hulls buckled. Entire sections of the fleet were thrown into chaos. On the Eternal Dominion, every alarm screamed at once. "Damage report!" Thexar shouted over the noise. 142 ships destroyed, Admiral. Another 87 heavily damaged. What was that weapon? I do not know, Thexar said. His voice was hollow. In seconds, the humans had destroyed more than 200 ships. How was this possible? These primitives with their chemical rockets and nuclear weapons. They were not supposed to have technology like this. Sir, we need to withdraw, Commander Ethor said. We have lost nearly a third of the fleet again. Whatever weapons they have, they are beyond our ability to defend against. No, Thexar said. The word came out like a growl. We will not retreat again. We will not be humiliated by these primitives twice. All ships full assault. Target the planet directly. Forget the weapon platforms. We will burn Earth to ash. The Valoran fleet changed formation, streaming toward Earth in a devastating charge. They would lose more ships to the human defenses, but they had enough vessels to absorb the losses, and once they reached the planet, their superior firepower would end this war. They are going all in, Morrison said, watching the enemy fleet accelerate toward Earth. They are going to try to overwhelm us with numbers. General, we do not have enough weapons left to stop them all. Morrison knew. She had known from the beginning that this was likely. Earth had struck first, struck hard, and inflicted terrible losses on the enemy. But in the end, the Valorans had too many ships, too much firepower, too much determination to save face. Launch all remaining drones, she ordered. Fire everything we have left, and initiate Protocol Lazarus. Get those data ships away from Earth. Around the world, the last of humanity's weapons launched. Drone fighters swarmed toward the Valoran fleet in a desperate suicide attack. Railguns fired from hidden positions on Earth's surface. The few remaining kinetic satellites activated. Everything humanity had built, everything they had prepared for 60 years was thrown at the enemy in one final desperate salvo. The space between Earth and the Valoran fleet became a storm of fire and death. Ships exploded. Missiles detonated. Energy beams crossed in complex patterns. It was the largest space battle in human history, and Earth was losing. Valoran ships began breaking through the defensive perimeter. Their plasma weapons charged, ready to burn the continents, ready to boil the oceans, ready to end humanity. Then something unexpected happened. A Valoran communications officer on one of the surviving ships picked up a transmission. It was not aimed at them. It was a tight beam signal traveling between 2 points in deep space, but the encryption was familiar. It was Valoran encryption. Admiral, I am receiving a transmission from Valoran High Command. Thexar, in the middle of directing the final assault, barely registered the words. What is it? Sir, it is an emergency fleet-wide order. We are to cease all hostile actions immediately and retreat from the Sol system. What? That is impossible. We are winning. Sir, the order is authenticated. It is from High Admiral Vorneath himself. All Valoran forces are to withdraw from Earth space immediately. Therar stared at the communications officer in disbelief. Why? Why would High Command order a retreat when we are about to win? The message includes a file, Admiral battle data from this engagement. Apparently, the humans transmitted it to Valoran High Command 5 days ago. High Admiral Vorneath has reviewed the data and concluded that continuing this war would cost more than Earth is worth. They sent our battle data to High Command. They dared to threaten the Valorian Empire. Yes, Admiral. And High Command took the threat seriously. Thexar looked at the view screen. showing Earth growing larger as his fleet approached. The blue planet that had cost him 700 ships. The primitive world that had humiliated the Valoran Empire twice. "Sir, the order is clear. We must withdraw." For a long moment, Thexar said nothing. Then slowly, he gave the order he never thought he would give. "All ships, cease fire. Break off the attack. Prepare for retreat." On Earth, Morrison watched in confusion as the Valoran fleet suddenly stopped advancing. The ships were so close now. Close enough that she could see individual vessels on the display. Close enough to start orbital bombardment. "What are they doing?" someone asked. "I do not know," Morrison said. "But do not drop our guard. Keep all weapons locked on them." The Valoran fleet began to turn away from Earth. Slowly maintaining formation, the ships retreated toward the outer system. They did not fire, did not attack. They just left. "General, they are withdrawing," the sensor officer said, his voice filled with disbelief. "The alien fleet is leaving the system." Morrison felt her legs go weak. She grabbed the edge of the tactical display to steady herself. "Confirm that. Are they really leaving?" "Yes, General. All ships are on a course out of the system. They are leaving." Around the command center, people began to cheer. Some cried. Some just stared in shock. They had done it. Against all odds, Earth had survived. Morrison did not cheer. She watched the Valoran fleet disappear from her screens and felt only exhaustion. They had won, but at such a terrible cost. Billions dead, cities destroyed, Earth scarred forever. "Get me casualty reports," she said quietly. "All theaters. I want to know what this victory cost us." The reports came in over the next hour. The numbers were staggering. 3 billion people dead from the direct attacks and the resulting chaos. Entire cities gone. Infrastructure collapsed. The environment damaged by plasma strikes and nuclear weapons. Earth had survived, but it would take generations to recover. Outside, people were celebrating in the streets. They were free. The aliens were gone. But Morrison knew the truth. This was not the end. The Valorans had retreated, but they would remember, and other species out there in the galaxy would hear what happened here. Earth had announced itself to the universe in the most violent way possible, and the message was clear. Humanity was dangerous, possibly too dangerous to leave alone. The age of innocence was over. Humanity would never again look at the stars with wonder. From now on, they would look at the stars with weapons ready, because now they knew the universe was not empty, and not everything out there was friendly. 6 months after the Valoran retreat, Earth was a planet transformed. Not by choice, but by necessity. The war had changed everything. General Morrison walked through the ruins of New York. Construction crews worked around the clock, rebuilding what the plasma strikes had destroyed. But this was not the old New York. The new buildings were lower, reinforced with composite materials designed to withstand energy weapons. Underground shelters connected every structure. Nothing was built anymore without thinking about the next attack, because everyone knew there would be a next attack. Maybe not from the Valorans, but something would come. The galaxy had noticed Earth now. Morrison entered what used to be the United Nations building. Now it was the headquarters of the Unified Earth Defense Force. The old national military still existed, but they operated under a single command structure. Now, the war had done what centuries of diplomacy could not. It had united humanity under one banner. "General Morrison, welcome." President Sarah Chen said she had been the Chinese premier before the war. Now she was the first president of the unified Earth government. The world had decided that separate nations were a luxury humanity could no longer afford. "Madam President," Morrison replied, taking her seat at the conference table. Around the table sat the other leaders of the New World Order. Military commanders, scientists, diplomats, all of them working toward the same goal, making sure humanity survived the next encounter. "Let us begin with the reconstruction report," Chen said. Admiral James Knitsov, formerly of the Russian Navy, now commander of the Earth Space Fleet, stood up. "Reconstruction is proceeding faster than expected. We have 12 new orbital defense platforms online. The lunar mass drivers have been rebuilt and upgraded. We have increased their capacity by 40%. We have also constructed 3 new manufacturing facilities on the far side of the moon." "What about the fleet?" Chen asked. "We now have 200 warships under construction. not as large as the Valoran vessels, but heavily armed. We reverse-engineered some of the alien technology from the wreckage. Our new ships will have energy shields, plasma weapons, and faster-than-light capability. Morrison listened with mixed feelings. Humanity was becoming a military power. Their entire economy had been restructured around defense. Every resource, every scientific advancement, every manufacturing capability now served one purpose: preparing for war. "What about first contact protocols?" Chen asked. "Have we detected any other alien species?" Dr. Elena Vulov, head of the new Xenoscience Division, pulled up a holographic display. "Yes, Madam President. We have detected 17 different faster-than-light signatures in nearby star systems over the past 6 months. None have approached Earth directly, but they are watching us. We have intercepted some communications, though we cannot fully translate them yet. What are they saying? From what we can determine, they are talking about us, about what we did to the Valoran fleet. Some of the communications seem fearful, others seem curious, a few seem hostile. So we have made enemies we have never even met," Morrison said quietly. "Perhaps," Vulov replied. "But we may have also made allies. 3 days ago, we received a transmission. It was in mathematical language, easy to translate. A species calling themselves the Keelther Combine wants to establish diplomatic relations. Are they friendly? Unknown, but they are the first to openly contact us. Their message indicated they were impressed by our defense of Earth. They want to discuss mutual protection agreements." Chen looked around the table. "Opinions. We need allies," Nidov said. "We cannot face the galaxy alone. But we need to be careful," Morrison added. "We cannot trust anyone yet. For all we know, this Kelleran Combine is just another empire looking to conquer us." "Agreed," Chen said. "We will respond to their message, but carefully. Diplomatic relations only. No military alliances until we know more about them." The meeting continued for 3 more hours, covering everything from weapon development to food production to psychological counseling for the survivors. The war had touched every aspect of human life. After the meeting, Morrison returned to her private quarters. She had not been home to San Francisco in 8 months. Her apartment there was gone anyway, destroyed in a plasma strike. This small room in the defense headquarters was her home now. She sat at her desk and opened the classified reports, the ones too sensitive to discuss even in the secure conference room. Project Genesis. That was the name of the most secret program Earth had launched after the war. While everyone focused on rebuilding the defenses, a smaller group of scientists had been working on something else, something that terrified Morrison more than any alien fleet. Biological weapons. Specifically weapons designed to target alien biology while leaving humans unharmed. The research had been controversial. Many people argued that humanity should not become the monsters they had fought against. But others argued that Earth needed every advantage, every weapon, every tool of survival. Morrison had authorized the project. The decision haunted her every night. But she had made it because she knew what was coming. The Valorans had retreated, but they were still out there. And they had friends, allies, an entire empire that now saw Earth as a threat. The second report was even more disturbing. Intelligence Division had decoded more of the intercepted alien communications. What they found was chilling. The Valoran Empire was not the largest power in this region of space. They were actually considered a mid-tier civilization. Above them were species and empires that made the Valorans look primitive. And all of them were now watching Earth, wondering what to do about the violent newcomers who had destroyed a Valoran fleet. Some of the communications suggested quarantine. Simply blockade the Sol, never let humanity leave. Others suggested preemptive destruction. Burn Earth before it became a real threat. A few suggested negotiation and integration, but those were in the minority. Humanity had announced itself to the galaxy by winning a war, and now the galaxy was deciding what to do about them. Morrison closed the reports and looked out her window at the Earth below. The planet looked peaceful from orbit. You could not see the ruins from this height, could not see the mass graves, could not see the trauma etched into every survivor's face. But it was there, all of it. The price of survival. A chime indicated an incoming message. Morrison opened it and felt her blood run cold. "General Morrison, this is Deep Space Observatory 7. We have detected a large fleet entering the outer solar system. Configuration is unknown. Not Valoran. Repeat, not Valoran. Fleet size estimated at over 300 ships. They are broadcasting on all frequencies. The message is for you personally. Morrison's hand shook slightly as she pulled up the transmission. The face that appeared on her screen was not human. It was not Valoran either. This being had smooth blue skin, large dark eyes, and a gentle expression that somehow made Morrison even more nervous. "Greetings, General Sarah Morrison of Earth," the alien said. Its voice was soft, almost musical. "I am Ambassador Thelness of the Galactic Council. We have come to discuss the future of your species. I assure you, we mean no harm, but we must talk. What you have done has created a crisis that affects the entire galaxy. Please respond." Morrison stared at the screen. The Galactic Council. She had seen references to it in the intercepted communications. Apparently, it was some kind of governing body for the civilized species in this region of space. And now they were here. 300 ships. Not attacking, not threatening, just waiting. Morrison activated the emergency alert system. Across Earth, across the moon, across every human installation in the solar system, alarms began to sound. The defense network powered up. Weapons came online. Humanity prepared for another battle. But Morrison had a feeling this would not be like the Valoran War. This felt different, more dangerous in a way she could not quite define. She opened a communication channel to the alien fleet. "Ambassador Thelness, this is General Morrison. Your ships are not welcome in our system. State your intentions clearly, or leave immediately." "As I said, General, we wish only to talk. The Galactic Council has rules about contact with new species. Rules that the Valoran Empire violated when they attacked you without authorization. We are here to make things right. Make things right. 3 billion humans are dead. Our cities are ruins. How exactly do you plan to make that right?" "We cannot undo what was done," Thelness said. And for a moment, Morrison thought she saw genuine sadness in those alien eyes. "But we can prevent it from happening again. We can offer Earth protection, membership in the Galactic Council, a place among the civilized species. And what is the cost of this protection? We will discuss terms when we meet. Please, General Morrison, we have come in peace. Allow us to send a diplomatic shuttle to Earth. No weapons, no soldiers, just myself and my staff. Let us talk." Morrison looked at the tactical display. 300 ships, all of them maintaining a respectful distance from Earth. No aggressive movements, no weapon locks. They really did seem to be here for diplomacy. But Morrison had learned not to trust appearances. The Valorians had looked invincible too. "Stand by, Ambassador," she said, cutting the transmission. She opened a channel to President Chen. "Madam President, we have a situation." The Emergency Council convened within the hour. The debate was fierce. Some argued for accepting the meeting. Others demanded the aliens leave immediately. A few suggested attacking first before the Galactic Council could make the first move. "We cannot fight them," Knopf said. 300 ships. We barely survived 500 Valoran vessels and we had surprise on our side. We cannot win this fight. But we cannot trust them either, Morrison replied. For all we know, this is a trick. They come in peace. We lower our guard, and then they attack. Or, Dr. Volov said quietly, they really are here to talk. And if we refuse, we make an enemy of the entire Galactic Council. How many species belong to this council? How many ships could they send if we anger them? The room fell silent. It was the nightmare scenario. Earth, isolated and alone, facing not one empire, but an entire galactic civilization. We meet with them, Chen said finally, but on our terms, they can send their shuttle to the lunar surface, not Earth. We will meet them there in a facility we control. If this is a trap, at least we can contain the damage. Morrison nodded. I will make the arrangements. 3 days later, Morrison stood in the conference room of the newly rebuilt lunar base Alpha. Through the windows, she could see the gray surface of the moon stretching to the horizon. Above, Earth hung in the black sky like a blue and white jewel. The alien shuttle had landed an hour ago. Ambassador Thelness and 2 aides had been escorted to the conference room. Now they sat across the table from Morrison, President Chen, and the other human leaders. Up close, Thelness looked even more peaceful than in the transmission. But Morrison did not let that fool her. She kept her hand near the concealed weapon at her side. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with us," Theln said. "I know trust is difficult after what you have endured, but please believe me when I say, the Galactic Council had no knowledge of the Valoran attack until it was too late." "How convenient," Morrison said coldly. "It is not convenient. It is shameful. The Valorian Empire has been sanctioned for their actions. They have been forced to pay reparations." "Reparations? What good are reparations to the 3 billion dead?" "None," Thelnis admitted. "Nothing can bring them back. But we can ensure it never happens again. That is why we are here." "Explain," Chen said. Thelnis pulled up a holographic display showing a map of the galaxy. "The Galactic Council represents 47 species. Together, we maintain peace and order in this region of space. We have rules about first contact, about warfare, about expansion. The Valorans violated those rules when they attacked Earth. So you have rules. The Valorans ignored them. Why should we think anyone else will follow them?" "Because the Council enforces them," Thelnis said, "with military force, if necessary. The Valorian Empire learned that lesson. They will not attack you again, but others might," Morrison said. "We have intercepted communications. Some species want us destroyed. Others want us quarantined. Why should we trust the Council to protect us? Because it is in our interest to do so." Belms said simply. "General Morrison, let me be honest with you. What you did to the Valorian fleet terrified the galaxy. You took a conquering force and destroyed it using weapons we did not even know existed. Your tactics, your weapons, your willingness to fight to extinction rather than surrender. All of it has marked humanity as extraordinarily dangerous. So, you are here to contain us." "No, we are here to recruit you." Morrison blinked. "What?" "The Galactic Council needs species like yours. Strong, innovative, determined. We face threats from outside our borders. Species that do not follow our rules. Pirates, raiders, rogue empires. We need warriors. And you have proven yourselves to be among the best." "You want us to be your soldiers," Chen said flatly. "We want you to be our equals," Belnis corrected. "Join the Council. Add your strength to ours. In return, we offer protection, technology, and integration into galactic civilization. And if we refuse," Delnis's expression turned sad, "then you remain alone, and eventually someone will find a way to destroy you. Maybe not today, maybe not this year. But Earth has made enemies simply by surviving. Without the Council's protection, you will not last long." Morrison looked at President Chen. The unspoken question hung between them. Were they trading one conqueror for another? Or was this truly their best chance at survival? "We will need time to discuss this," Chen said. "Of course," Thelnis replied. "Take all the time you need. But while you decide, General Morrison, ask yourself this question. What does humanity want? To hide behind walls and wait for the next attack? Or to step out into the galaxy and claim your place among the stars?" Morrison had no answer, because she did not know what humanity wanted anymore. They had only wanted to survive, and somehow, against all odds, they had. But what came next? That was the question that would define Earth's future. 25 years after the war, Sarah Morrison stood on the observation deck of the ESS Defiance, humanity's first deep space explorer. She was older now, her hair gray, lines on her face, telling the story of hard years. But she had lived to see something she never thought possible. Earth at peace, Earth thriving, Earth reaching for the stars. Below the planet Kepler 442b rotated slowly. It was humanity's first colony world beyond the solar system. 300,000 people lived there now, building cities, raising children, creating a new branch of human civilization. "Beautiful, is it not?" a voice said beside her. Morrison turned to see Ambassador Thelnis. The alien diplomat had not aged visibly in the 25 years since their first meeting. His species lived much longer than humans. "It is," Morrison agreed. "I never thought I would see this day." "Few did," Theln said. "But here we are. Humanity has come far." It had been a difficult 25 years. Earth's decision to join the Galactic Council had been controversial. Many people saw it as surrender. Others saw it as collaboration with the enemy. But slowly, As the benefits became clear, opposition had faded. The Council had provided technology faster than light travel, advanced medicine, clean energy, manufacturing techniques that seemed like magic. In return, Earth had opened its borders, allowed Council observers, and agreed to follow galactic law. More importantly, Earth had contributed to the Council's military. Human ships now patrolled alongside alien vessels, protecting the borders of civilized space. Human tactics and weapons had been integrated into Council doctrine. The same ferocity that had defeated the Valorans now protected other species from aggression. Humanity had become what Thelmus promised. Not subjects, but equals. "Have you heard the news from the Valoran border?" Thelmus asked. Morrison nodded. "Their empire is collapsing. Internal revolts. Subject species seeing what Earth did and deciding they want freedom too. Yes, the Valorans are learning a hard lesson. Fear can conquer, but it cannot hold. The species they enslaved are breaking free. Some are asking Earth for help, and will we help them? That is for your government to decide, but the Council would support it. You more than anyone understand what it means to fight for survival." Morrison looked back at the colony world below. Humans and several alien species lived there together. Children of different species played in the streets. Humans ran restaurants serving alien cuisine. Aliens studied human art and music. It was not perfect. There were still tensions, still misunderstandings, but it was working. "I have been thinking about the war," Morrison said quietly, "about the choices we made. We developed terrible weapons, did terrible things. I authorized research into biological warfare, into weapons that could kill entire species. Sometimes I wonder if we became the monsters we fought against." Thelmus was quiet for a moment. "General Morrison, may I tell you something? Something that is not widely known, please. The Galactic Council has existed for 10,000 years. In that time, we have encountered 234 species. Some joined peacefully, others had to be convinced. A few had to be conquered for their own good and the safety of others. But do you know how many species defeated a Council member empire before joining? How many? 1. Humanity. You are the only species to face a conquering fleet and win. The only species to force your way to the negotiating table through military victory. Every other species came to us as either supplicants or victims. You came as warriors. I am not sure that is something to be proud of." "It is exactly something to be proud of," Theln said firmly. "The galaxy is not a safe place, General. There are threats out there that the Council barely holds back. Rogue AI civilizations, hive mind species that consume everything in their path, dimensional entities that defy explanation. We need species who can fight, who have the will to survive at any cost. You have that will. Earth has that will. That is why you are valuable. That is why you are needed." Morrison looked at the alien diplomat. "Are you saying the Council wanted us because we are violent? I am saying the Council wanted you because you are survivors. Violence is just a tool. What matters is the will to use that tool when necessary. Too many species in the Council have forgotten how to fight. They have lived in peace so long that they cannot imagine war anymore. But you remember, Earth will always remember." A chime sounded. Morrison checked her communicator. "We are needed on the bridge." They walked together through the corridors of the Defiance. The ship was a joint human-alien design, combining the best of both technologies. Human weapons and tactics merged with alien shields and propulsion. The crew was mixed too. Humans, Kilterin, Vashinari, and a dozen other species working side by side. On the bridge, Captain James Chen waited. He was the grandson of President Sarah Chen, carrying on the family tradition of service. "General Ambassador, we have received a distress signal. A transport ship under attack by raiders. The Valdari Corsairs position," Morrison asked. 3 light-years from here. They are asking for immediate assistance." Morrison looked at Thelmus. "What do you know about these raiders?" "The Valdari are not part of the Council. They prey on trade routes attacking civilian ships. They are dangerous, but not a major threat to military vessels. Do we have any other ships in range?" "No, General. We are the closest Council vessel. If we do not respond, that transport and everyone on it will be lost." Morrison made her decision quickly. It was what she did, what she had always done, Captain Chen set course for the distress signal. Maximum speed. General quarters. Alarms sounded throughout the ship. Crew members rushed to battle stations. Weapon systems powered up. Shields activated. The Defiance had been designed for exploration. But like all human ships, it was heavily armed. Earth had learned that lesson well. Never go into space unarmed. The ship jumped to faster than light speed. 3 light years passed in minutes. They dropped back to normal space, near the coordinates of the distress signal. Contact, the sensor officer reported. I have the transport ship. It is damaged and venting atmosphere. 5 raider vessels are attacking it. Valdari design. They are firing on the transport. Open a channel to the raiders. Morrison ordered. Channel open. General. Morrison's voice was cold and hard, the voice she had used during the war. Valdari vessels. This is General Sarah Morrison of the Earth spaceship Defiance. You are attacking a civilian transport in Council space. Stand down immediately, or we will open fire. There was a pause. Then a harsh, growling voice responded. Earthship, we have heard of you, the species that destroyed the Valoran fleet. Perhaps you would like to try your luck against us. This is your final warning. Release the transport and leave this system. Or what human? You are 1 ship. We are 5. Do you really think you can fight us all? Morrison looked at Captain Chen and nodded. Chen gave the order. All weapons fire. The Defiance had been designed by humans who remembered what it felt like to be outgunned and desperate. Every weapon system, every tactic, every piece of technology had been created with one question in mind. How do we make sure we never lose again? Railguns fired tungsten penetrators at relativistic speeds. Plasma cannons adapted from captured Valoran technology lanced out across space. Missile pods launched seeker drones armed with fusion warheads. And beneath it all, the ship's AI coordinated the attack with inhuman precision. The Valdari raiders never had a chance. They were pirates used to preying on weak civilian ships. They had no experience fighting a purpose-built warship crewed by veterans of the Valorian War. In less than 30 seconds, 3 raider ships were destroyed. The remaining 2 tried to run. Do not let them escape, Morrison ordered. If we do, they will just attack someone else. The Defiance pursued. Its faster-than-light drive was more advanced than the raiders' engines. Within minutes, they caught the fleeing ships and destroyed them. Morrison watched it all with a strange emptiness. 25 years ago, she had ordered these same actions against the Valorans. 25 years, and she was still giving kill orders, still watching ships explode, still being the person who decided who lived and who died. General, the transport is hailing us, the communications officer said. They want to thank us. Tell them they are welcome, Morrison said, and offer medical assistance if they need it. The transport captain's face appeared on the screen. He was Kellen, like Ambassador Thelness. Thank you, General Morrison. You saved 43 lives today. We are in your debt. No debt necessary, Captain. This is what the Council does. We protect each other. After the rescue, Morrison returned to her quarters. She sat at her desk and pulled up the classified reports. Even 25 years after the war, there were still secrets, still weapons programs, still contingencies, in case the galaxy turned against Earth again. She had access to all of it. The biological weapons, the antimatter stockpiles, the stealth ships hidden throughout the galaxy, the AI war machines that waited in dark orbits, ready to activate if Earth ever sent the emergency signal. Humanity had joined the Galactic Council, but Earth had never fully disarmed, never fully trusted. The scars from the Valorian War ran too deep. A message arrived. It was from the Council headquarters. Morrison opened it and felt her breath catch. General Morrison, this is High Councilor Rena. We have a situation that requires your expertise. A species on the edge of our space has been attacked by unknown forces. The attacks are systematic, brutal, and effective. We have lost contact with 3 of their colony worlds. We need someone who understands this kind of warfare. Someone who has fought against overwhelming odds. We need you. Morrison stared at the message. After 25 years of peace, the galaxy needed Earth's warriors again. Needed the violence, the tactics, the weapons that humanity had developed in desperation. She thought about refusing, about saying she was too old, too tired, too haunted by the choices she had already made. But she knew she would not refuse, because this was what Earth had become. The protectors, the warriors, the species that remembered how to fight. She opened a response channel. "Hi, Counselor. I will assemble a task force. Send me all the information you have. We will handle this." The response came quickly. "Thank you, General. I knew we could count on Earth." Morrison closed the channel and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, people were dying, being attacked by something they could not understand, could not fight. They needed help. They needed warriors. They needed humanity. She pulled up the personnel files and began selecting her team. Veterans of the Valorian War, young officers trained in the new tactics, alien specialists who understood Council technology. She would build a force that could handle any threat, because that was what Earth did now. 25 years ago, they had fought for their own survival. Now they fought for others, for species who could not protect themselves, for civilians under attack, for the idea that the galaxy should be a place where peace was possible. But they fought with the same ferocity, the same determination, the same refusal to surrender that had saved Earth from the Valorans. They fought not because they wanted to, but because they had to. Because someone had to stand between the predators and the prey. Morrison sent the message to her team. "Assemble at the Defiance. We have a new mission. Details to follow. Be ready to leave in 24 hours. The responses came back quickly. Every single person accepted. No hesitation, no questions. They were ready, because they were human, and humans did not give up ever. Morrison stood and walked to the window. Below, the colony world continued its slow rotation. Children played, families laughed, people lived their lives in peace because others stood guard in the darkness. She thought about the Valorians, about Grand Admiral Thexar, who had come to conquer Earth and found only death, about the billions who had died in the war, about the price humanity had paid for survival. And she thought about the future, about the threats still out there, about the species that needed protection, about the role Earth had chosen to play in galactic affairs. They were warriors now, not conquerors, but protectors, not destroyers, but defenders. They had taken the violence that nearly ended them and turned it into something that saved others. Was it enough? Was it redemption for the terrible things they had done? Morrison did not know. Maybe there was no redemption for war. Maybe all you could do was try to make the next fight mean something. Try to ensure that the violence served a purpose beyond mere survival. She touched the window, feeling the cold glass beneath her fingers. "We did not choose this," she whispered to the empty room. "But we will do it anyway, because someone has to." 50 years after the Valorian War, a human child sat in a classroom on Kepler 442b. The teacher, a Keelther with blue skin and kind eyes, told the story of Earth, about the day the aliens came, about the war, about the impossible victory. "And that is why Earth is special," the teacher said. "Not because they are stronger than everyone else, not because they are smarter or more advanced, but because when faced with extinction, they chose to fight, and they have never stopped fighting for what is right." The human child raised her hand. "Teacher, my grandfather fought in that war. He said it was terrible, that people died, that Earth almost fell." "Yes," the teacher agreed. "It was terrible. War always is. But your grandfather and others like him made sure that Earth survived, made sure that humanity had a future, and now, because of them, we all live in peace. But we still have weapons." Another student said, "My father works on a warship. Why do we need warships if we have peace?" The teacher smiled sadly. "Because peace is not the natural state of the galaxy. Peace is something we must fight for every day. The weapons, the ships, the soldiers, they are not signs that we want war. They are signs that we remember what it costs to lose one. Earth remembers. And so long as Earth remembers, the galaxy has a chance." The lesson ended. The children went home to their families. And above the colony, human warships patrolled the space lanes, keeping watch, always watching, always ready. Because humanity had learned the hardest lesson of all. The galaxy was not safe. The stars were not friendly. And survival was something you earned every single day with strength and determination, and the will to never ever surrender. The Valorans had tried to conquer Earth. Instead, they had created something far more dangerous. A species that would never forget, never forgive, never give up, and the galaxy would never be the same.